Larson looks long for Jermaine Beckford over the top. Here is Beckford, takes a touch inside the area. Can he get his strike away? Oh, and he's finished it off! Jermaine Beckford gives Leeds the lead at Old Trafford!
Happy New Year and welcome to the Leeds United Show. This week we'll be reviewing the festive period for the team.
Oh, Rafinha!
Looking ahead to the FA Cup third round tie.
Here is Beckford, takes a touch inside the area. Can he get his strike away? Oh, and he's finished it off! Jermaine Beckford gives Leeds the lead at Old Trafford!
And finding out all about the brand new Leeds United podcast.
There's times where you'd come in at 7:30 or the fitness staff would be in at 7:30 and Jan would be out on the pitch already, like doing stuff on his own. So brilliant. God knows what time he leaves his house.
Well, first up, let's talk about the last few weeks. Now, despite the loss to Spurs, Ben, can we look back at the festive period as a pretty successful time, really?
I think hugely successful. I think the player who summed it up perfectly after Tottenham was Luke Ayling. Came out and said 6 points out of 9. Really successful. And yeah, of course, you don't like losing games of football, but it is against one of the better teams in the league. We did apply ourselves in the correct way, the only way we know. But the 2 games prior to that, that was key to get maximum points against teams who, before start of the season, you expected to be in and around you. But no, successful period, and look where we are in the table. We're not looking down, we're always looking up, and that's the key.
Exactly, and those wins over Burnley and West Brom showed the 2 sides to the team, really, didn't it?
Hugely. I was really impressed with the Burnley one. And we said in the LUTV studio after the game, I've been there as a player when you're sitting in the changing room, sometimes it feels better after you grinded out a 1-0 victory than when you put 5 past a team just because you've really earned it, you've thrown your bodies on the line. But I think it just silenced a few doubters in terms of defending set pieces, throwing bodies on the line. And those 2 clean sheets, done it without any recognised centre-half. So with Luke Ayling stepping in there, he's done a superb job. But Pascal Struijk as well, as a young lad, he's been playing in that kind of Calvin role, but the way he steps back into centre-half just shows the work that goes in behind the scenes at Thorpe Arch. Bielsa gets his players ready for any position.
And when you look at the league table, I don't think anyone can be dissatisfied with where Leeds United sit at the minute, can they?
Oh, not at all. I'm absolutely delighted. I think we're having a fantastic season. But again, Luke Ayling said it's only kind of a start. We need to kind of push on now. It's all good getting these plaudits, pats on the back. But as players, they want to go into every single game, and they believe that can win every single game as well. So moving forward, yeah, there's some tricky kind of fixtures coming up, but fixtures that are really winnable if we apply ourselves right. And we've proven any time we get points this season by being winning games, drawing games, when we apply ourselves for the full 90 minutes, do our roles and responsibilities, we can pick up wins.
Next up on the Leeds United Show, we are joined by someone who had some much needed glamour and has created many a happy memory for Leeds fans around the world. And Jermaine Beckford. How are we, lads? You all right?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Cue laughter, Jermaine. Now, you might recognise these voices from the official Leeds United podcast, #1 Christmas podcast, may I add. Matthew Lewis and Jermaine Beckford. Let's get stuck straight into it then, lads. What is this podcast about? Because we're on episode number 3 now.
Yeah, well, it's about Leeds United. Didn't pick that up. But basically, obviously, Leeds are back where they belong, Premier League, and it's been a painfully long time coming, and we just wanted to get some people together and chat about it. But it's not just about, you know, obviously us being in the Premier League, but it's we've got Bex on there talking about what the club was like trying to get us back there and his time playing. Then we've obviously got yourself, who's an insider at the club, talking about all the things that happen at Ellen Road. And then we've got Pat Bamford coming on talking about the comings and goings of Thorpe Arch and actually playing for Leeds United right now today. So it's quite eclectic on all the different things we cover. But yeah, it's about Leeds United.
And I think one of my favourite things is the anecdotal things that come out in it. For example, if you haven't listened to this week's episode yet, there's a story about Patrick Bamford and a rabbit. And it's those kind of things, those little nuggets that you wouldn't get elsewhere, would you, lads?
Absolutely. And it's full of laughter, it's full of energy, it's full of bizarre, strange, crazy stories and situations that we've been in as well. So it's not just football related, but it's everything that leads us up to the magical match day. You know, it's great fun. And Matty, as always, is full of beans, full of energy, high octane. But you know what? It's brilliant because we get to talk about any and everything. And you're there as well, and you keep throwing the reins on all of us and reminding us which route we need to go down and to try not to deviate too far away from the plan. You know, so with all of us there, we've got a great little dynamic. It works really well.
It's really fun because, like, you know, I live in the United States, and so I always feel like, as you know, when I've been a Leeds fan out there, it's been difficult at times having to finding anyone to talk to about Leeds and just, I don't know, debrief after a game or get excited before one coming up. I've watched you guys on LUTV and that's sort of been able to keep us going. And so when we do this podcast, I've got one eye on all my friends back in the US who love Leeds and thinking, what would they want to be asking from afar? And so to have that fan perspective, to get in and chat to Bex, to chat to Bamford about the inner workings of the club, and then to have these amazing humanising stories about what footballers really get up to. It's an insight that I've never had before. I think most people never had, and it's been great for me to just fanboy out every week.
Well, Matt, you've mentioned the guy there, Patrick Bamford, is obviously part of the show. He's the guest every week. What's your favourite story so far? I know you're 3 episodes into the podcast, but is there any standout stories? I bet you could pick a few.
There's a few, isn't there?
You know what I've got to say about Pat is that, you know, so many of these footballers are heavily media trained, and they sort of, whenever they get interviewed, they sort of trot out the same lines, the same, you know, superlatives and all the rest of it, and it's kind of a bit tired at times. And Pat's come on and he's not been like that at all. He's been really
refreshing.
open. It's not an interview. He's not really a guest. He's like one of us as presenting the show, and he's been really good value, and he's been really honest. And that's some of the things that I've really enjoyed. Is he's talked about, you know, his frustrations at being written off before the season, his glee at proving the doubters wrong. And naming names. He's talked about transfers that haven't gone quite the way they should do, and as Em just mentioned there, we've got probably my favourite, a little story about a rabbit.
There's also a story about Elvis that I quite like as well. The Elvis fancy dress, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Elvis one.
I knew
All the
you'd
stuff
like that
that
one.
goes on inside the club is just like you can't find that out from anywhere else.
Guys, obviously we've bagged our dream guest in Patrick. Patrick, if you're watching, thank you. But if you could have anybody else, your dream guest to join us on the podcast, this is for both of you. Could see what Ben's doing.
Oh, sorry guys, I did too.
Who would it be?
Dream guest. Oh, let's see.
Jermaine.
Give it up, Ben.
Benjamin.
It's a lost cause. It's a lost cause.
Do you know what? I think the guests that we've had so far have been. I say the guests we've had so far. The guests we're gonna get on the podcast really, really soon, within the next few weeks, hopefully, are going to be some amazing guests. I'm not name dropping. I'm not throwing any names out there because, you know, we can make a lot of things happen, and it'll be great. So it'll be great to get their insight on all things Leeds United and what they are about as people as well, you know, outside of football. I'm not name dropping. I'm not saying any. But Ben, we'd love to have you on.
we roomed together on our first away trip in Norway, and it's still sacking me off like this. What's it come to?
That is why he's sacking you off, probably. and Matt, for you, who would your dream guest be?
Well, I mean, there's so many names that I would love to bring on, and there's so many eras. You know, we talk about the ups and downs that we Leeds, but there's so many eras that I'd love to get people in and find out really what happened. You know, really what went on in certain times throughout history. But for me, there's only one person that that would be a dream, and I'd probably have to learn some Spanish, but that would be Marcelo Bielsa, the man who's masterminded all of it. You know, the person who is the brains behind this entire resurgency and has put us back where we belong. I mean, an opportunity to discuss that with him would be incredible.
Well, Matt, about Bielsa takes us perfectly to being on the pitch and the results recently. So, Matt, from a kind of fan's point of view, what do you make of the recent results?
I mean, I'm ecstatic. I actually just talked about this in our podcast, in that I think that any time we lose, obviously it's disappointing, but I feel like we're only losing games that we probably expected to lose anyway. Like the disappointment we feel is because of the expectation we now have all established that we can, on our day, beat anyone. And suddenly this idea of desperately trying to finish 17th, where you go, well, hang on, where else can we finish? Can we get in the top half? Can we get in the top 6? And so all these crazy things start to sort of manifest, and then obviously you do lose games, and that's an unusual feeling. We've not lost many in the last few years, so it is an unusual feeling this year. But I've been absolutely over the moon with it, and the simple facts are that we're beating the teams we need to beat. You know, we're beating everyone around us, and we're picking off a few big scalps along the way. And the teams we are losing to are the ones kind of, you know, that should be beating us, really. I mean, no one has a right to beat Leeds, clearly, but you look at the price of the squads and these teams that have been established in the Premier League, and I'm really not fussed. And the fact is, the manner in which we win kind of dictates the manner in which we lose. And if we can win 5-0 against Newcastle, 5-2 against Newcastle, or 5-0 against West Brom, but that means that we occasionally lose 3-0 to Spurs or 4-1 to Leicester, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that.
And that is a lot to do with the approach and the style of play, isn't it? And there's been much talk around that. It's never not entertaining, Jermaine, but what have you made of the discussions around the Leeds United style of play?
It's bizarre because, as Matt touched on there, we're talking about a team that has just been promoted from the Championship into the Premier League, and we still got 85-90% of those same players that we had that finished mid-table in the Championship a couple of years ago. You know, so when you take all of that into consideration and you see the manner in which we're approaching games, of playing against Man City, getting points, playing against Arsenal, getting points, playing against all of these big clubs, it is ridiculous that people are saying, oh, the style of play is not right for Leeds United for the Premier League because, you know, they're just going to blow up. They haven't got the quality players. We're mid-table in the Championship in our first...
In the Premier League.
Better than the majority of teams in the league. Exactly. Clearly better than the majority of teams in the league. And as long as we continue to beat at least 6 or 7 of the teams in and around where we are now, I can't see there being any issues.
So saying all that then, Matt, the league position we are in at the moment, are you happy with it? Or are you always looking to try and break into that top half?
I mean, again, I am. The fact that we're not in the top half after that Christmas run has disappointed me, but that's ridiculous.
No, but we are mid-table. We are mid-table.
Yeah. We're comfortably mid-table, and I said to Bex at the start of this season, I will take 17th. I will happily take 17th. I think we're capable of doing 14th, but I'll take 17th. And here I am telling you I'm disappointed that we've not made it into the top half. It's just the way that we're playing, and our expectations are always being magnified, but you know, we have to also look at it with a pragmatic brain and go, well, actually 12th is fantastic. I mean, that's ridiculous with the price of our squad. I mean, you look at, you know, Bex always has a go at me because I'm always stat man and I look at stats rather than results a lot of the time, but the facts are that our squad is about the 17th most valuable, 16th most valuable squad, and we're up in 12th. So I mean, that speaks for itself for me. And that, as we talked about Marcelo Bielsa, that is a manager getting the very, very best and a bit more out of his players. I'm happy with that.
And he's certainly done that. But who for both of you has stood out so far this season?
Goalkeeper and Calvin Phillips and Patrick Bamford. But you could literally put all the names in a hat, swirl them around and pick out any 1, 2 or 3 of them. Because whichever names you pull out, they've got a very strong case for being one of the best players, the standout players of the team. Harrison's been fantastic on the left wing. Rafinha has been brilliant on the right wing. You look at whoever's standing in centre half, Luke Ayling, or like literally the list is endless. Every single one of the guys that puts the shirt on, that turns up and plays in the 11, whether they start or whether they come off the bench, have been brilliant. They've all been an incredible breath of fresh air, and I'm so proud of every single one of them for what they've achieved so far. Just so far, you know, and we've got so many more games to go, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen the next time we play all of these teams in the league, because now they've all got an understanding and an idea of how we play. We also know how they play and their strengths and weaknesses, so we're going to target their weaknesses as much as they're going to try and target ours. I also think that we're going to come out on top. Bring it on, 12th. Yeah, let's go for 10th.
I think Bex is absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because it's very easy to single out match winners, you know, like Melier and Bamford. But at the end of the day, this is a team, and it's a team like none of the other teams in the league, in that everyone, you know, we don't really have these superstars that are individual performers. We have a team that are working collectively for each other and for the manager, and if any one of them is not pulling the weight or whatever, that's when it can start to fall down. But they're not. They're all working collectively and the sum is greater than, you know, the parts, and it's crucial to how we are. But having said that, you know, when we have lost players, I think the blokes at the back have done tremendously well. The amount of pressure they've been under this season you know, the defence is shaky or the conceding goals. It seems to me that everyone likes to talk about Liverpool's injuries. No one wants to mention the fact that Leeds have got 3 centre halves out, 2 of which, you know, are multi-million-pound signings.
Internationals as well. Yep.
Internationals. And we're having to make do with, I think, about only one person who's playing at the back in his actual position. And he's an academy, like, he's been bumped up to the first team out of nowhere. And I just think that they've done incredibly well. And it's very hard to single out a single person in this team that are all just playing out their skin.
Well, we've got a little break now from the league action. FA Cup, 3rd round weekend. And Jermaine, you got any memories of the FA Cup 3rd round?
Oh, many. How long have you got? Yeah. Do you know what? Again, this is something else we touched on the podcast, which is amazing. I've always dreamt about playing in the FA Cup as a kid. You know, you watch it on the television on BBC, and you know, you dream about the possibility of playing against one of the big teams and taking one of the big scalps, or playing against some of the best football players in the world as well. You know, so. I've always looked forward to and enjoyed whenever I have played any games in the FA Cup, and I've been quite fortunate to have played a few and got a pretty decent goal scoring record in them as well, and a couple of big scalps along the way. You know, we won't talk about Spurs, but
and there was another big goal though, wasn't there? There was another big FA Cup goal that you scored.
Oh, was there? What was that? Yeah. January 3rd, 2010.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Who was that against?
Oh. It was against one of your favourite teams. Least favourite teams. The Man United game. That was exactly what the FA Cup is all about. That's the moment what dreams are made for. You know, especially as a Leeds United number 9, a Leeds United player, person, anybody from the city or from the north knows about what it means to score a goal against one of your biggest rivals, and to beat them at their place in the manner in which we did it. And we could have scored a couple more as well, which is the frustrating part of it. They could have scored a couple as well, don't get me wrong, but we should have scored a couple more. But been able to walk away from that game knowing that we've absolutely dismantled them in their own backyard and walked away from it and created history in itself was incredible, absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love it and cherish those moments so dearly as well. So yeah, FA Cup, what dreams are made of.
Yes, it is.
Is that Jermaine getting a bit emotional?
I know. Should we hand you some tissues, Jermaine?
I'm not crying.
What do you think then, Matt? What do you think Marcelo will do with the team for this game?
I mean, who am I to try and second guess?
All right, I'll take it then.
But I mean, from my perspective, I would like to certainly see a couple of players rested. Obviously, I'd like to see. I'm more than happy to give a lot of the under-23s a bit of a run out. It's this weird thing for me where I try and be very pragmatic in the lead up to a cup game, where I'm like, look, we don't need this. I know a cup run's nice, but we don't need it. We got to focus on staying up, getting the results, all this kind of stuff. Let's concentrate on the league. And then as soon as it comes to kick-off, I want to smash them. And it happened last year with Arsenal. I even put on Twitter, I was like, I don't want to win this game because it's going to be a distraction for us, and we've got a really congested season already. We don't need the fatigue. And as soon as I watched all the build-up and we're at Emirates and we're kicking off, I just wanted to win. I just wanted to win. And and I'm sure I'll be the same next week. But again, that kind of pragmatic part of my brain says, I'm not. Obviously, we're a big scalp. They're League Two. We should be winning, and obviously the pressure will be on us. But I think that the depth that we've got in that under-23s team in our academy, we've more than enough there with a sprinkling of senior players to win that anyway.
Listen, I wouldn't be disappointed if we played it and lost. No. I wouldn't be disappointed because the bigger picture for us this season has to be maintaining our Premier League status. Has to be, first and foremost. Anything else on top of that is a massive bonus. So I completely agree with what Matty's saying there. I want to see Poveda, Shackleton, Pablo get a run out, have a run out. Pablo shouldn't be having a run out. He should be playing week in, week out because he's a magician. The guy is incredible. But he's had his injury issues earlier on in the season. He seems to have come through that now, and he's starting to find his form a little bit. And I think this game and then the Brighton game would be two perfect games for him to kind of find his feet and really get himself back into the starting 11 mode. But I completely agree. I want to see a lot of the 23s and the fringe players, the players that are getting in the squad but not quite making the bench, or making the bench but not quite making the 11. I want to see those guys playing because they're good enough. They're all good enough, and with what we have in the ranks, we should have enough to win this game.
Bex, especially from a player's point of view and an ex-player's point of view as well, going to like these lower league teams, what's the approach like? Because it's so easy to get you up for yourself for the games against your Manchester United, your Tottenhams, like you spoke about, but going to these lower league teams, how hard is it to kind of not motivate yourself, but to deal with the tempo and physicality?
Well, do you know what? This is with Marcelo Bielsa and his mindset and mind frame, I think this is the perfect game for those fringe players to really make a statement that they should be in the frame to playing on a league game, a Premier League game, should be playing in those league games. So they should use that as added motivation to find. That's the dog going crazy next door. Somebody must be trying to break in. The dog will get him. So he's like a foot long. He's not causing damage to anyone.
More reliable than your Wi-Fi, your dog, isn't it? Eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this will be the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity for those fringe players and the squad players to really state their claim to Marcelo Bielsa, to make it known that they are up for it and they are ready to be thrown in at the deep end, so to speak, on a match day.
Well, best of luck to them. And just finally, lads, before we let you go, obviously the third episode of the official Leeds United podcast is released this week. Just let people give them a sneak preview about what we can expect.
Go on, Matthew.
I knew you'd make me do it. Well, this week we're talking about, obviously, the transfer window is now open, so we're talking a bit about transfers. We're talking about Beck's and Pat's experience with that, and some little stories about when it's maybe not quite gone so right for certain individuals, which is some good stuff.
It's quite funny, right?
Yeah, it's all right, yeah. We're just it's just a nice chat about the new year, about what we're expecting from the games coming up, and what we felt about the games previous, and Leeds' potential dipping their toes in the transfers.
Well, Jermaine Beckford, Matthew Lewis, thank you so much for joining myself and Ben on the Leeds United Show. You can find the official Leeds United podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure you rate, subscribe and everything else that you do, and use the hashtag LUFCpod if you want to ask any questions, because Patrick Bamford is going to be joining us again next week. Thank you for that, lads. I'll see you on the podcast next week.
See you next
week.
Next up, our very own Jack Dakin has been getting the fans lowdown ahead of the match at the weekend in our fans panel.
Gents, thank you very much for joining us today. An FA this weekend against Crawley Town, who are on an unbelievable run of form, 9 games unbeaten. We've just come off the back of a defeat in the Premier League, but still playing great football under the Bielsa way. I guess the first question I'll start with is, Jay, I'll come to you being the Crawley fan. Can Crawley cause an upset this weekend?
Well, I think we can. We've got the attack of Max Watters, obviously, Ashley Nedizan. So we've got the attackers to hurt Leeds, I think. But I feel like it will be quite an open attacking game. I feel like Leeds might just probably pull through. But we have got the players to hurt Leeds, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be a lot of attacking with us as well, and clearly you guys as well. Paul, what do you think?
Well, we've had it in the past where we've had Istons and Ketterins and Suttons and Rochdales, and I just hope that it's not a repeat performance and we just continue the fine form that we've started this season in the Premier League. Even with the results, I don't think we've really played bad in any game. Probably West Ham and Burnley for the second half. But again, it'll be very much down to what Bielsa picks. If he picks some of the young guys, this Sam Greenwood, Gellart, Charlie Cresswell, Jack Jenkins all chomping at the bit. So it depends what side he puts out. But I do really think that, we ought to go for it because, I think we've got a chance to win the FA Cup this season. Definitely.
Yeah. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, similar to what Paul said, really. Just depends what squad we play or what starting lineup is. But it'd be nice to see some of the lads, like what Paul just said then, some of the fringe lads getting in a bit, getting on the ball in the first team.
Going off that point then, guys, who do you think Bielsa will possibly play? Obviously, Paul, you mentioned Geldhart, you mentioned Greenwood. Is it now time to play the youngsters or maybe the players that we've got on the bench that haven't really been played much? Like, I know Helder Costa hasn't been given much game time recently and the likes of Poveda. Poveda is someone, for me, that I think we need to see more of. He only really ever gets 20 minutes at the end of a game and maybe it's not fair on him because it's not much time to show what he can do. Do you think that he'll start the youngsters or he'll go with some of the substitutes?
I think there'll be a mixture, but I think knowing Marcelo as we do, he'll want to win the game. So I think usually we know he's going to pick that settled side and that side that's won the last game. But I think this one's got us all guessing a little bit. So I think the subs will be involved. I think there's some young players involved, but I think as well there'll be maybe a spine of the team that is first team players.
Johnny, what do you think?
I think you could potentially have quite a nice balance of youth and experience, even with some of the lads on the bench, like Pablo. He hasn't been getting a lot of game time, so it might be a good time to start try and get him back getting some minutes under his belt. I think, him and Poveda.
Is there any, out of the young players that we've got, obviously coming through, is there anyone that you would like to see? Obviously, the likes of Greenwood, the likes of Geldhart.
Well, I do watch the under-23s and I think I'd like to see Gellart because I think he's been sensational for the under-23 since he got here. I agree with Johnny as well that Greenwood, there's so much sort of fuss around him, Sam Greenwood, that, I'm sure he'll be in the squad or if he doesn't start, he'll probably be on the bench. But I mean, the one that always impresses me and obviously has been making the bench is Jack Jenkins. You look down at what we've got coming up, such as your Niall Huggins, Jack Jenkins, and it's some absolutely fantastic footballers. And let's have a look at these guys, see what they can do.
Definitely. From watching the under-23s, they've been playing well recently. So a lot of them definitely deserve to have their name on the team sheet, 100%. Jay, we'll come to you now. Sorry, we've spoken a bit about the Leeds. Crawley, obviously being in League Two, we don't really get to see much of the games. They're not televised a lot. We don't really know who their star players are. So from yourself as a Crawley fan, who would you say are the players that as Leeds fans we need to look out for and who could change the game for you guys and possibly win it for you?
Well, I think I'm going to start with Max Watters. Obviously he's injured right now, so no one knows where he's going to start, and he's linked with a move away to Championship Premier League clubs. But he's got 13 goals in 15 League Two games, 16 in competitions. He's got the best goals per game ratio, I think, in the whole of England. So if anyone's going to score goals, it's going to be him. In defence, which I think we'll be doing a lot of defending this week. And I think we've got our goalkeeper, Glenn Morris. He's probably one of the best goalkeepers in League Two, being unbiased. And then we've got a good partnership in defence. We've got Jordan Tunnicliffe and Tom Dallison. And then we've got Tony Craig, who was at Millwall. So we've got quite strong defence. And I think we'll probably go for a back five against Leeds, as we have when we played higher opposition against Wimbledon. We played back five. So I think we'll go for a strong defensive performance and try to hit you on the counter. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's probably the best way for you guys to play as well. With the striker that you've got, if he is playing, can you see him obviously being the one to change the game for you, really, or not even change the game, be the one to score the goals for you in the game? Because, like you say, with the way that we play, very attacking, very counter-attack, very quick football, we're quite open to a counter-attack, and like you say, that's the way that you're going to play. Do you think he can definitely counter on those counter-attacks and score the goals for you?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we get the ball, I think the first thing defence do is literally punt it up top straight for Watters to run onto.
Okay.
And we've got three of them that are also really fast, Tom Nichols and Ashley Nadesan, so they're all really fast attackers. So we do go for the ball over the top and try and run in behind.
Based off of whoever wins the game on Saturday, Paul, you alluded to it earlier by saying that we could possibly win it. What would you say is a good round for either side to get to, depending on who wins on Saturday? So, Paul, we'll start with you. For example, you said that we could possibly go and win it. Would you say that is a realistic round for us to reach, or maybe something prior to that?
I think anything past quarter-final and then past would be an achievement. Because I mean, I don't think we haven't reached a quarter-final since 2002, 2003. And in that time we have had the Histons and the Kettrins and the Suttons, and there's no distraction of Europe. We're just winning the Premier League now. I don't know why. I think we should go and have a real go at it. And if we get a nice kind draw and a few home ties, you never know. You never know. But for me, a quarter-final or a semi-final would be fantastic. For my son as well, he's never seen them in an FA Cup quarter-final or a semi-final.
Yeah.
So, something like that.
Yeah, hopefully the cup magic, like it's been said over the past few years, it's not as forefront of the mind as it has been over the recent years. But like you say, we've got no Europe, we've got nothing else really apart from the league, so we may as well make a go of it. You're completely right. Johnny, what do you think?
I'm a bit similar to Paul's son, really, I suppose. I have not seen us get that far in competition. Best one I can remember is obviously the January 3rd one from them lot over at Pennines. So, I don't know, I don't really mind, to be honest. I know that it's not what you meant to say because we're English fans and we love the FA Cup and stuff like that, but first year back in Prem, I don't want to be distracted by any cup competitions really. But it's a good opportunity, like we've said before, about getting some of the younger lads in, getting them some experience, and if they can perform first team level, no reason they can't come into the first team on a weekly basis. Definitely. So I'm happy as long as you just don't have another Histon.
Jay, what do you think, Crawley? If you were to get through this round, what would you say is a good round for you to be happy at?
I mean, just getting this far has been good for us. I mean, the amount of money that we've lost from the pandemic, losing that amount of money. So even getting this far, the TV money from BBC as well. But I mean, round 5 again would be good for us. I mean, that was the furthest we got a decade ago. We got knocked out to Man United 1-0 when we were in non-league. So I'd say matching that would be good.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Can I get, then, a score prediction from each of you? Jay, we'll start with you.
I think you'll edge us. I think it'll be 3-2 Leeds, yeah.
Interesting. Go for us.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you think?
I'm going to go, and I'm usually hopeless at this, but I'm going to go 3-1 Leeds with Crawley scoring from a corner after Jay's, and then one at youngsters actually getting a goal. Don't know which one, but one at youngsters will score. Maybe Greenwood, Gallart. So we'll see.
Be great for their confidence, wouldn't it? Definitely. Johnny, what do you think?
Because I think along the similar sort of lines where it's going to be quite a young squad. So a 2-3-1 to Leeds, obviously.
Then we heard Matt say there that, you know, in the build-up to the FA Cup games, he's not really that bothered. But then on the day, he's like, no, we've got to win this. Do you view it the same?
Always nice to see a fan's perspective of all the feelings going into a game is, but nothing from a player's point of view. You always want to play the next game, just because if you get left out or get rested and someone comes in and performs exceptionally well, they might take your shirt. So it's kind of an awkward one. I always believed winning breeds confidence, but I think this season in particular, we know it's a unique season and it's all about staying in the Premier League. So I kind of anticipate quite a few changes, look after the players who've been playing week in, week out, because it's crucial that we are in the Premier League. Look, we're in a fantastic position. Don't kind of jeopardise it by playing a really strong team and potentially picking up a couple of niggles. And also on the flip side of that, the guys who've been playing in the under-23s, the guys who've been knocking on the door to trying to come into the starting 11, they've earned the right to come and have a game. So look, I expect a few changes, but the goal remains the same: go down there and win.
It certainly does, and you can follow all the action here on LUTV.